Sandra's phone lit up in the darkness of their Abuja bedroom at 11:47 p.m. The message from her friend Blessing made her heart stop. Sandra, I saw Johnson at Jobby Lake Mall today with a fair-skinned woman. They were holding hands. I'm so sorry, sis. She sat up in bed, her whole body trembling. Johnson lay beside her, sleeping peacefully after a long day at his construction company. The man who called her my queen every morning. The man who had loved her faithfully for 4 years of marriage. Or had he? Sandra stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then she read it again, and again. Sleep became impossible. By the time the sun rose over Abuja's skyline, Sandra had made a terrible decision. 3 days later, Sandra sat in the staff room of Grace International School, where she taught mathematics. She showed Blessing's message to her colleague, Mrs. Amaka, a woman 15 years older who had been married twice. My dear, welcome to marriage, Amaka said, shaking her head. Men are all the same. They will smile in your face while doing wickedness behind your back. But Johnson has never given me any reason to doubt him, Sandra protested weakly. That's what they all say until Wahala happens. Amaka leaned closer. Let me tell you what my sister did. She pretended to be very sick. Her husband couldn't even last 2 weeks before he started complaining. That's when she knew his love was fake. You need to test this man properly. Sandra went home that evening with Amaka's words ringing in her ears. She opened her laptop and searched online. Story after story appeared about women who tested their husbands. One video had 3 million views showing a wife who faked memory loss to catch her cheating husband. Maybe this is the only way to know the truth, Sandra thought. That night, while Johnson was in the shower, she searched through his phone. Nothing suspicious, no strange messages, no secret calls. But Blessing had seen him with a woman. Someone was lying, and Sandra needed to know who. On Monday morning, Sandra put her plan into action. Johnson, I don't feel well, she moaned from their bed in their modest flat in Lugby. Johnson, who was preparing for work, rushed to her side immediately, his face filled with concern. What's wrong, my queen? My whole body is paining me. My head, my back, everywhere. Sandra made her voice weak and added a convincing wince. Let me call the office. I'm taking you to the hospital right now. No. Just let me rest small. Maybe it will pass. But Sandra made sure it didn't pass. Each day she complained of new pains, headaches that made her cry, joint pain that prevented her from standing, stomach problems that kept her in bed. She stopped going to work, telling her principal she was seriously ill. Johnson took her to National Hospital in central Abuja. The doctor, a middle-aged man named Dr. Okonkwo, examined her thoroughly. He ordered blood tests, x-rays, and scans. 2 weeks later, they returned for results. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I have good news, Dr. Okonkwo said, looking at his computer screen. All your tests came back normal. There's nothing physically wrong with you, Mrs. Johnson. Sandra had prepared for this. But doctor, the pain is real. I'm suffering. How can everything be normal? The doctor removed his glasses and looked at her kindly. Sometimes stress and emotional problems can cause physical pain. The mind and body are connected. I recommend you see a therapist. I can refer you to... I don't need a therapist, Sandra snapped. I need you to find out what's wrong with me. Dr. Okonkwo sighed and prescribed some multivitamins and pain medication, though his expression showed he thought the problem was in her mind, not her body. What Sandra didn't expect was how completely Johnson would dedicate himself to caring for her. Every morning at 5 a.m., he woke up to prepare her breakfast before heading to his construction site. He called her every single hour to check on her. During lunch break, he drove all the way from his site in Kubwa back to Lugbe, just to make sure she had eaten. Johnson, you don't have to come home every day, Sandra said one afternoon, watching him heat up soup for her. It's too much driving. He turned and smiled at her, though she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. You're my wife. You're sick. Where else would I be? He started working half days, leaving his site supervisor in charge so he could come home early. His business partner, Emeka, complained, Guy, this woman's sickness is affecting our business, Emeka told him on a phone call that Sandra overheard. We have 3 projects running. You need to be on site. My wife is more important than any project, Johnson replied firmly. If you can't understand that, then we have a problem. Sandra felt a pang of guilt hearing this, but she pushed it away. I need to be sure of his love, she told herself. Johnson hired a housemaid named Patience to help with cleaning and cooking, spending money they had been saving for a new car. Every evening, he massaged Sandra's feet, her back, her shoulders, wherever she claimed was paining her. He prayed over her every night. Father God, please heal my wife. Show us what's wrong. Give the doctors wisdom. I can't bear to see her suffering like this. Sandra watched him pray with his eyes closed, his voice breaking with emotion. Real tears ran down his face. He really loves me, she thought. But then Blessing's message would flash in her mind. They were holding hands. 6 weeks into her fake illness, Sandra decided to push the test to its limit. Johnson, we need to talk, she said one Saturday morning. She had rehearsed this conversation all night. He put down the medication he was organizing for her. What is it, my queen? The pain is getting worse. Nothing is working. I've been researching online and I think I need to travel abroad for treatment. Maybe to India or South Africa. Their doctors are more advanced. She watched his face carefully for any sign of relief, any hint that he wanted her gone. Instead, she saw fear. Pure fear. How long would you be gone? He asked quietly. Maybe 6 months. Maybe a year. Depends on what they find. Johnson was silent for a long moment. Sandra knew what he was thinking. They had a mortgage to pay. His business was struggling because he'd been absent. They had car loans and bills. Her salary from the school was crucial. Sending her abroad would cost money they didn't have. Now, she thought, now he will show his true colors. Now he will complain. Okay, Johnson said finally. Okay? If that's what you need to get better, we'll make it happen. He took her hand in both of his. I'll sell my car. We can use that money for your treatment. I'll talk to Emeka about selling my share of the business, if necessary. Your health is worth more than anything we own. Tears filled Sandra's eyes. Real tears this time, not fake ones. Johnson, that's your business. You built it from nothing. And I can build it again, he said simply. But I can't replace you. You're my wife, my partner, my everything. We'll make it work, Sandra, I promise you. At that moment, Sandra's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Blessing. Sandra, I need to confess something. That day I said I saw Johnson with a woman, I made a mistake. It wasn't Johnson. It was someone who looked like him. I'm so sorry. I just confirmed it today. Sandra's hand shook as she read the message. Then another one came. The man I saw was actually my neighbor's brother visiting from Lagos. He just told me today. I feel terrible. Please forgive me. The phone slipped from Sandra's fingers. Sandra, what's wrong? Johnson picked up the phone and read the messages, his eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Who did Blessing think she saw me with? When did this happen? Sandra couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. The room started spinning. Sandra, talk to me. What is going on? I haven't been sick, Sandra whispered. What? I haven't been sick, Johnson. I've been pretending. All of it. The pain, the symptoms, everything. I was testing you. The silence that followed was the loudest sound Sandra had ever heard. You've been pretending? His voice was hollow. For 6 weeks? Blessing sent me a message saying she saw you with a woman. I didn't know what to believe. I needed to know if you truly loved me, so you destroyed our lives to test me? Johnson's voice rose. I almost sold my business, Sandra. I used our savings to hire a maid. I left my projects to take care of you. I cried every night, begging God to heal you. Johnson, I'm sorry. You're sorry? He laughed, but it was a terrible sound without any joy. Do you know what Emeka said yesterday? He said he wants to dissolve our partnership because I've been unreliable. Do you know I haven't paid our mortgage for 2 months because I used that money for your fake medical bills? Do you know I lost a contract worth 5 million naira because I couldn't be on site? Sandra began to cry. I was afraid. I thought you were cheating. So instead of talking to me like an adult, like your husband, you decided to play games? Johnson grabbed his car keys from the dresser. I need to leave before I say something I'll regret. Where are you going? I don't know. Anywhere but here. He stopped at the door and turned back. His eyes were red, but he wasn't crying. You know what the worst part is, Sandra? Not the money I wasted. Not the business I damaged. The worst part is that after 4 years of marriage, after everything we've been through together, you didn't trust me. You valued the word of a friend over 4 years of my faithfulness to you. The door closed behind him. Sandra heard his car start and drive away. She was left alone in the silence of their bedroom, surrounded by the medicine bottles and supplements he had bought for her fake illness. On the nightstand sat a journal Johnson had been keeping. Sandra opened it with shaking hands. The entries were all prayers. Page after page of prayers for her healing, lists of symptoms he was tracking, questions he wanted to ask doctors, research he had done about mysterious pain conditions. The last entry, written just that morning, read, God, I don't understand why you're allowing Sandra to suffer, but I trust you. Please give me strength to take care of her. I love her more than my own life. Show me how to help her. In Jesus' name, amen. Sandra closed the journal and wept. Johnson didn't come home that night or the next night. He stayed with his friend Peter in Woos 2. Sandra called him over 50 times. He didn't answer. She sent text messages begging for forgiveness. He read them but didn't reply. On the third day, she drove to Peter's apartment. Johnson finally agreed to talk to her, but his eyes were cold. I need time, he said simply. I need time to process what you did. How much time? I don't know, Sandra. How long does it take to rebuild trust that someone intentionally destroyed? The next week, Johnson came home, but he moved his things into the guest room. He was polite, but distant. He greeted her in the morning. He came home from work, but the warmth was gone. The man who called her my queen now called her Sandra. The man who used to massage her feet now barely looked at her. Sandra returned to work, facing questions from her colleagues about her miraculous recovery. She couldn't look Mrs. Amaka in the eye. At home, she cooked Johnson's favorite meals. He ate them and said thank you, but nothing more. She tried to initiate conversations. He responded with one-word answers. 1 month passed, then 2, then 3. Sandra felt like she was living with a polite stranger. It was Johnson's mother, Mama Johnson, who finally intervened. She traveled from their village in Enugu to Abuja after Johnson finally told her what had happened. Sandra, my daughter, Mama Johnson said, sitting with her in their living room. What you did was very wrong, but marriage is not a straight road. Sometimes we make terrible mistakes. He won't forgive me, Mama. It's not about won't. It's about can't. Not yet. The older woman took Sandra's hand. You broke something precious. Trust is like a glass cup. Once it's shattered, you can glue it back together, but it will never be the same. The cracks will always show. So what do? You give him time. You show him through your actions, not your words, that you've changed. And you pray. Both of you need to pray. That evening, Mama Johnson called both of them to sit together. I'm not leaving this house until both of you agree to see a marriage counselor, Johnson protested. Mama, I don't need. Yes, you do, his mother said firmly. Both of you do. You're my son and she's my daughter. This marriage is worth fighting for. Reluctantly, they agreed. Pastor Ibrahim, their church's counselor, met with them every Saturday morning for the next 4 months. The sessions were painful. Sandra had to face the full extent of what her test had cost them. Johnson had to confront the bitterness that was growing in his heart. Sandra, why didn't you just ask Johnson about what your friend saw? Pastor Ibrahim asked during one session. I was afraid he would lie, Sandra admitted. So you chose to believe he was a liar before giving him a chance to be truthful, the pastor said gently. That's not love, that's fear. And fear destroys what love builds. I know that now. Johnson, the pastor turned to him, how are you processing your anger? I'm trying to forgive her, Johnson said quietly. But every time I look at her, I remember coming home exhausted from work just to take care of her. I remember crying myself to sleep, begging God to heal her, and it was all a lie. That betrayal is real, Pastor Ibrahim acknowledged. But holding on to it will poison you more than it hurts her. Forgiveness isn't saying what she did was okay. It's choosing not to let her mistake define the rest of your marriage. The turning point came during their 10th counseling session. Pastor Ibrahim asked them each to write a letter to the other, expressing their deepest feelings. Sandra wrote about her insecurity, her fear of abandonment, her regret. She wrote about watching Johnson sacrifice everything for her and finally understanding the depth of his love too late. Johnson wrote about his heartbreak, his anger, his sense of betrayal. But he also wrote about the moments he had loved her, their wedding day, their first anniversary, the morning she made him breakfast in bed when he was sick with malaria. They read their letters aloud to each other in the pastor's office. Both of them cried. I'm so sorry, Sandra said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry, Johnson. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging for it. Johnson was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I forgive you, Sandra. Not because you deserve it, but because I can't keep carrying this anger. It's too heavy. Forgiveness didn't mean everything instantly returned to normal. Johnson still slept in the guest room, but small things began to change. He started saying good morning with a bit of warmth. He asked about her day at school. He even smiled at one of her jokes. Sandra, meanwhile, worked on herself. She stopped listening to Mrs. Amaka's toxic advice. She unfollowed all the social media accounts that promoted testing your spouse. Sandra began to understand that her father's abandonment when she was 12 had left scars she'd never addressed. She had been so afraid of Johnson leaving her that she created a scenario to force him to prove his love, and in doing so, nearly destroyed the very thing she was trying to protect. 6 months after the confession, on a quiet Sunday evening, Johnson knocked on the door of their master bedroom, the room Sandra had been sleeping in alone. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Of course." He sat on the edge of the bed, not quite looking at her. "I've been thinking a lot. About us, about what happened." Sandra's heart raced. "Yes? I want to try again," Johnson said finally. "Really try, not just living in the same house like roommates, but being husband and wife again." "Really?" Tears filled Sandra's eyes. "Really? But Sandra, I need you to promise me something. Anything. If you ever doubt me again, talk to me. Come to me directly. Don't listen to your friends. Don't create tests. Just talk to me. Can you promise me that?" "I promise," Sandra said, meaning it with every fiber of her being. "I promise, Johnson." That night, Johnson moved his things back into their bedroom. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension, still healing to be done. But it was a beginning.